Any organized group that you can name, from Rotary clubs to street gangs, from your bowling league to Hell's Angels, from your Tuesday morning bingo group to First Unitarian Society, is in sociological terms a regulated system of identity. That is, these groups have expectations concerning who is in and who is out, and in what people in will do, unlike the people out. For example, a foosball league. I lead a sheltered life. I made that up. Are there foosball leagues? Is anyone in? Well, anyway, no idea. But if there were, a foosball league will assume that you have some knowledge of and some skill of foosball. Same with bowling. Same with the Rotary Club. Same with the Hell's Angels. The 20th century Unitarian theologian James Luther Adams talked a lot about what he called voluntary associations, what they do, how they function, and how important they are in preserving a free society. First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis is a voluntary association and a regulated system of identity. Furthermore, we come out of a tradition of voluntary associations and regulated systems called, old school anyway, religious humanism. Okay, what does all that mean? And who gets to decide what all that means? Well, First Unitarian Society is a representative democracy, as Amanda pointed out, in which you elect your board of trustees, and you have called me then as your lead minister. I report to the board of trustees about how I'm doing, and they ask me how I'm doing, and that's how we keep up with things. So, you, the members, decide how to regulate this system of identity. What do we assume about the guests who come in our doors on Sunday mornings? What do we assume about the people who join? What do we assume about members over time? What makes this place of association and identity different from the Rotary Club or the Hell's Angels? What does it mean to belong congregationally? Simple questions, but I don't know that the answers are all that simple, and that is what I want to think through a little bit today. One thing I once did back in my university professor days was to serve on accreditation teams. That's a team of university professors and administrators who go up to a university and decide if they get their accreditation and get to stay so that they give higher education credit. When a university loses accreditation, it can no longer award degrees acknowledged by other institutions, and losing accreditation is usually the last nail in the coffin of a given institution. Now, the first thing the team does when we go in is look at the mission, vision, and values of the institution, the paper. Then we measure the reality of the institution against that aspirational paperwork. The mission, vision, and values have to do with everything the institution does, from pedagogy to food services, to physical and mental health services, operational budgets, endowments, maintaining the buildings, and how it pays staff. And that's my job here as a senior minister. Everything has to be working all the time, and working means that it supports the mission, vision, and values that you say we do. As many of you know, FUS leaders have been working on a new strategic plan for some time now. During that process, we have talked to everybody who was interested in talking about it. Our mission, which is printed in your order of services this morning at the top, now says this: First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis promotes a free search for truth, meaning, and justice in a congregational humanist community. 5 elements: free search, truth, meaning, justice, and a congregational humanist community. So this morning, let's get our accreditation glasses on, if you can do that. And let's take a look at how this place is doing, if it is doing what it says it's doing. So, why are we here? It's a basic question. I contend that first and foremost, a congregation is in the transformation business. Transformation individually, congregationally, and societally. Transformation. Week before last, I talked about belonging to the self. My point then was that we personally are transforming all the time, whether we like it or not. A consistent living self is a fiction maintained for some reason. If you are maintaining a consistent self, a very good question to ask yourself is, why am I trying so hard to keep a consistent self? Good question. Why am I resisting allowing myself to transform? Because the nature of reality wants all of us to transform. Another good question to ask yourself, since I am necessarily transforming all the time, how do I find an optimal way to transform into what I see as the best human being I can be? But, it's not just you in your own head, of course. All three of those elements we claim to promote here, truth, meaning, and justice, are moving targets. They transform from moment to moment. As I've said before, there's a big important difference between truth and facts. Gravity is a fact, for instance. The speed of light is a fact. Aging is a fact. Dying is a fact. Truths are intersubjective constructs created by human beings. Love is an intersubjective construct. Yeah, there are emotions involved, but the meaning of the emotions that we call love is an intersubjective construct. MEA is an intersubjective construct. I had no idea what it meant when I moved to this state, but MEA is important. It fills up the airports. It empties out restaurants, right? It is an intersubjective reality that doesn't exist for people who don't live in this state. Meaning is an intersubjective construct. What does a human life mean? What does it mean to be a good person? What does it mean to be a good citizen? Which is what I'm going to talk about next week. And what does it mean to do justice? Keep them coming back. And that word justice is a moving target as well. The justice of 1965 or 1995 or 2005 is not the justice of today. Justice is an intersubjective construct. Human beings create the meaning of justice from moment to moment. Every shooting, every arrest, every court case, every city, county, state, and federal law, every failure to amend or pass every city, county, state, and federal law, every bullet, every brick that's hurled through a window, every insult, every microaggression, every time a transgendered person is looked at strangely in a restroom. The meaning of justice changes from moment to moment. We have to try to keep up. It's work. Remember that quote from the theologian Cornel West. It's one of my favorites. Quote, "Justice is what love looks like in public." Justice is what love looks like in public. End quote. Justice is what each of us does outside of our own heads. How we interact with people when we meet up with them. How we strive to get our society to act toward other people. Justice is not a fact like gravity or the speed of light. Justice is a truth like love. Both of those, love and justice, of course, take hard work. The story goes that a Unitarian official in Boston got cornered one day in an elevator, and someone said, "What do Unitarians stand for?" To which the official responded, "We don't stand, we move." Now here's the thing. We do fight for the principles of truth, purpose, and justice, but we also know that truth, purpose, and justice are always moving targets. Our understanding of those truths is dynamic, and that's why we have that free search for truth and meaning thing going on here. Truth and meaning keep transforming, just as we personally keep transforming. And that last part of our mission statement, in a congregational humanist community. Here's the way I see it. What we call humanism or free thought is the stuff inside, the liquid contained, distilled to its essence. I would say that here's the liquid of humanism. It's a naturalistic worldview. It is a commitment to universal human rights and a conviction that human beings can solve human problems. That's the contents of humanism boiled down as far as I'm concerned. The packaging of humanism varies widely. There is secular humanism of the type that the American Humanist Association practices in our state chapter, the Humanists of Men. There's the humanism that ethical culture societies practice. We had a minister intern from ethical culture, Jay, over the summer. There is the humanism that humanistic Judaism practices. There is the humanism that black freethinkers practices. The humanism that secular Muslims practices. There's a whole lot of different containers. What those containers contain, however, is very similar. A naturalistic worldview, a commitment to universal human rights, and a conviction that human beings can solve human problems. And that's why I insist that using the term congregational humanism rather than that older term religious humanism for what FUS does is a better term. Why? Because humanist thought is consistent in both congregational and secular contexts. It's not the concepts that are different. It's what people do when they congregate that is different. Here, we congregate in ways that have been traditionally called religious. How to do that congregating is the question. And this congregation has chosen for more than a century now to do it as we are doing it right now, this morning. Now, congregating, as we do, does have some challenges. In a more secular setting, humanists can gather. They can talk and discuss and leave and never share themselves all that deeply. You can keep it on the surface if you like. In a congregational setting, however, we go deeper. We are more likely to get all up in your business, as we call it in the South, getting all up in your business. We're more likely to do that in a congregational setting. In a congregational setting, we share more deeply. We experience the lives of other people more deeply. And, of course, that leads to some challenges. And that's why we have that congregational covenant that we stand up and say most Sundays. Love is the spirit of this place, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Love, service, dwelling together in peace, seeking the truth in love, helping one another. Now, notice how that very old phrasing echoes our mission statement. Free search, truth, meaning, justice. Now, seriously, it's not a free search if me or anyone else is over there saying, hey, your search is all wrong, man. Right? That's not free. For example, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that the Chinese philosopher Confucius taught that virtue is the highest human aspiration. Right on, you go, Confucius. That sounds good, Yeah, virtue. But then there's the Greek philosopher Epicurus who says that the goal of life is finding pleasure and avoiding pain. What? Right? How selfish is that? You don't go, Epicurus. I don't want to hear that. But then, when you dig a bit, you discover that actually Epicurus and Confucius are expressing the same kind of formula for a moral life. They're merely approaching the question from two different directions. So, you see what I'm trying to say. Reactivity isn't following our covenant to seek the truth in love. Just because it sounds strange doesn't mean it is. Reactivity is not the way to build a congregational humanist community. Conversation and listening are. This morning, Amanda read a bit from the philosopher Martha Nussbaum. Some of you have heard me discuss Dr. Nussbaum's work before. Using neuroscience, brain and body research, and philosophy, Dr. Nussbaum has, I think, decisively torn down the artificial wall between reason and emotion. She has demonstrated that rather than assuming a wall between reason and emotion, we do better to think of these two in the terminology of Daniel Kahneman, which he calls System 1 and System 2, thinking fast and thinking slow. Fact is, none of us goes through our days running double-blind experiments before we make decisions. When was the last time you did that? Should I eat those 2 Reese's cups? System 1 says, oh man, my favorite. I deserve those on a day like today. I won't eat anything else for the rest of the day, I swear. System 2 says, 190 calories, 99 calories from fat. It'll take me 3 hours of walking, 18 minutes of running, or 26 minutes on my bike to burn off that many calories. And those ingredients, what's a PGPR? What's a TBHQ? No, says System 2, Reese's cups shall not cross my lips. Head or heart? Head and gut. System 1 and System 2. Martha Nussbaum has rewritten the book, at least in Western philosophy, on embodied reason. Let's think about what she has to say about congregating here. Quote, to be a good human being is to have a kind of openness to the world, an ability to trust uncertain things beyond your own control that can lead you to be shattered in very extreme circumstances to which you were not to blame. That says something very important about the condition of the ethical life, that it is based on a trust in the uncertain and on a willingness to be exposed. It's based on being more like a plant than like a jewel, something rather fragile, but whose very particular beauty is inseparable from that fragility. End quote. A trust in the uncertain, a willingness to be exposed, being more like a plant than a jewel, something rather fragile, a beauty that is inseparable from that fragility. Think about it. No, you can't trust alone, right? You can't be exposed all by yourself, right? It takes relationship. Our goal here is a loving search in proximity with other people. That's why we are here. Our goal here is to have open and trusting communal interactions with each other, freely searching for truth, meaning, and justice, but together in community. If we aren't doing that, we aren't doing what we exist to do, pull the accreditation. You can listen to great TED Talks at home, right? You can listen to great music in your pajamas. You can support social justice from your smartphone. Yet the need for congregational community is greater than it ever has been, exactly because nowadays, as the business guru John Naisbitt says, we are drowning in information but starved for knowledge. We are drowning in information but starved for knowledge. Now, I hate mixed metaphors like that. Sorry, dude, but that's a mixed metaphor. So I'm going to say we're drowning in information but desiccated for knowledge. Dying of thirst for context and community. And as for wisdom, well, I'll mix my metaphors and say they are, wisdom is as scarce as hen's teeth, as we say in the country, which you non-farmers, chickens don't have teeth. So, wisdom is as scarce as hen's teeth. Continuous change. Yeah, that can be disconcerting, but here in this place, another thing we do is transmit traditions across generations. Think about it. This room has been here since 1951. Baby namings, weddings, time for all ages, coming of age, memorial services. As we sing most weeks, we have found our need to be together, here, communally. Whatever life can throw at any of us, we're here for each other, believing deeply that, as humanists, we are enough. Acting congregationally is the skill and the practice of those claims. Management theorist Peter Drucker said a long time ago, all nonprofits have one essential product, that is a changed human being. And that's true. But congregations take that one step further. We believe in staying with you as you change and you change again. This congregation has been here since 1881, long before any of us here were born. And this place is still here, and it'll be here for a long time after all of us here are gone, seeking truth, transforming lives, impacting justice. We are here to continue to practice what it means to be human. Without you, the mission and aspirations are all just paper. It always has been and always will be about people in a congregation. As long as you stick with it, First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis will continue promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice in a congregational humanist community. Thanks for listening. You can find much more about humanism and what's happening at First Unitarian Society in Minneapolis by visiting our website at firstunitarian.org.